I love Mondays with Mike Heller.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker in the Badger State. This is I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Powered by determination and a little bit of duct tape. Here's your host, Mike Heller.
Oh, this is not the show I wanted to do today. Not at all. I think this is a pretty simple deal when you are a fan of a team. And I am a fan. I have never tried to hide. In fact, it's one of the things I want to put to the front of the conversation is that I am a fan first. For 39 years, I've been in broadcast, either on television or the radio. And you're supposed to, at some level, I think, depending on what avenue of the broadcast or journalism side of media you get into, you're supposed to check your fan card at the door. I've been in industries, two of them in television and in sports talk radio, that you don't have to check your fan card at the door. So I haven't. So I'm going to have a guest here in a little bit, Jim Polzin, who, he's not a fan, which is that's his job, is to be objective without having a horse in the race, without having the emotion of the ups and downs of teams winning and losing. I think most columnists and most reporters will tell you they mostly don't care, but it's more enjoyable at times to cover programs that are winning and achieving things. I think there is also heat that comes from those jobs when you're talking about programs that are not succeeding and that have failed. Think of what Badger football has done over the last, since they ushered Paul Chryst out the door. So you're talking about 3.5 seasons. I don't know that that's a joy for anybody to cover, but it certainly is an interesting cover. So we're going to have Jim Polzin on the show. He'll join us in a couple of minutes. Superfan Jeff Vilker, Treadmill Boy, he'll be on at about 10:30. And then I'm going to finish the show with bourbon. I've got bourbon out now to start the show. Many times I have it on a rock. This is neat. And this is a J. Henry, which you can see in the background over there. That is 2021 anniversary edition. I'm going to hit that a little bit as we go through the program. The problem with a day like this, and by the way, good morning, James. Thank you. James has now become our regular welcome to the show. Good morning, guy. Appreciate that. The problem with yesterday is I didn't see Wisconsin blow it. I saw High Point win it. Now, you could certainly go to things. I charted down what happened down the stretch. So, and here's where I think the game swings. Wisconsin led 70-62 on a layup from Nick Boyd with 7:07 to play. 7:07 to play. Wisconsin is up 8. High Point turns the ball over on their next possession. Rapp airballs a 3. Then High Point misses. Blackwell misses. Now you got 5:40 to play. You've had 2 possessions up 8 with a chance to go up 11 on a Rapp missed 3 and to go up 10 on a Blackwell missed 2. Then High Point misses again from 3-point range. So you've got your 3rd consecutive possession now inside of 5 minutes with a chance to take a lead and make it double digits. And on that one, Boyd missed at the rim. He went left to right and then overspun it, and it fell off. Right after that is the rebound and Chase Johnson's 33-footer. They called it 33. I think it was 83. The shot just inside the half court. I'm kidding. But when he hit that 3, like he pulls up in transition and gets the drop pass, and he's halfway in the logo, and he doesn't set the shoot. He catches and shoots on a leaning run I think it's probably 35. I mean, they call it in the play-by-play, they call it 33 feet. When he let it go, I said, what the? And then it went in, and then I said, shit. That made it 70-65 with 4:54. But I'll go back. 3 Wisconsin possessions, up 8, starting with 6:21 on the Rapp missed 3, 5:40 on the Blackwell missed 2, and 4:58 on the Boyd miss at the rim. Any of those would have given you a double-digit lead. The first one would have put you up 11. The other 2 would have put you up 10. And then Chase Johnston showed up. It's his 6th year of college basketball. I think he's 37 years old. And he didn't miss down the stretch. 3 big threes, and his only 2-point basket of the entire season. You know that. Now you do. Then with Wisconsin still up 5, High Point missed. Blackwell got the rebound, and he stepped out of bounds on a baseline. Then Anderson ended up hitting a 3. Boyd made a layup. Anderson a layup. Boyd made free throws. Johnston a 3. Winter got a tip in. You're up 76-73. Fletcher hit a 3 with 2.5 minutes left, and you're tied at 76. Couple other key moments then that I want to get to. Wisconsin is up 80-78 with a $125 and the ball. Boyd gets a layup. You're up 82-78, up 4 with 1:08 to play. Johnston hit a 3 in front of their bench over Boyd to make it 82-81 Wisconsin, 55 seconds left. High Point missed again. Badgers got it. Boyd gets blocked with 15. Johnston gets the layup with 11 seconds left. And then Boyd went to the rim again and got blocked. Wisconsin lost the way they've won all season long. When they've won, they gave the ball to Nick Boyd, or they gave it to John Blackwell. And in this case, they give it to Boyd. Blackwell had 20 in the first half and nothing in the second, 2. Boyd didn't have much in the first half. First 7 points of the game, then didn't score again in the first half, I don't believe. And then he was pretty good in that stretch until you got to a minute to play. Just the human emotion of this. And I asked the question on Twitter, which team in the state has broke you more? So think of Badger football, not recently, but go back. I mean, they've broken you in bowl games and Big Ten championship game when they had a chance maybe to go to the playoff. Penn State loss, Ohio State loss in the Big Ten title game, in which either or both send you to a 4-team college football playoff. Those games broke you, did they? Basketball has broken you now for a decade, but you can go back in the Final Fours. Did you not get broken on losing to Kentucky in North Texas when you could have won? Were you not broken a year later on a Monday night against Duke? And then all of these losses, the Chiozza running 3 at Madison Square Garden, the turnover the year before at the end against Notre Dame, either game puts you in the Elite 8. And then all of these, like this one yesterday, Brewers in the postseason. I can go recent memory. Pete Alonso, 3-run homer in the 9th inning in a wild card clinching game. The Packers and what they did even just this year in those losses to the Bears and the playoff loss. Which team broke you more is a question that I have. I get this, and I got it, Darren. Johnson's layup was an easy travel. I don't know that that's ever getting called. I mean, I know he caught it on the run, and I believe they allow you a catch-gather step, and then your step and a half. I don't think it's a travel. Somebody said that Chase Johnston is older than Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know. He could be. I think he's 26. I know I used hyperbole and said he was 37, but I think he is 26. Let's bring in Tim Polzin into the show. I see him, and let's see if I can hear him and he can hear me. You got me?
I can hear you. You got me?
Yeah, we're good on this. Thanks for doing this. You're still in Portland, I assume, yes?
I am. I'm scheduled to get back into Chicago around midnight tonight.
All right.
That's the plan.
Safe travels to you. I just read your column again before we got started today on the program, and I want you to give a little summary. Now, Greg Gard is very media cooperative. Is that a pretty way to? I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't have to come out and talk to you guys. I wasn't there, but he have to come out and talk to you guys in the hallway. He does the press conference, but then there's a locker room thing, and give us a little summary of his reaction to how it wrapped yesterday, and maybe what you could sense from his emotion.
Yeah, I mean, just to give people kind of an inside baseball view of this, is the locker room opens and Wisconsin goes on their press conference setting simultaneously, and those two areas are very far apart. You really can't do both.
Yeah.
I went locker room. Like, we get so little access to locker room that I chose to do locker room. So Greg went on the press conference and answered questions. And then typically every year he comes in and answers questions. And sometimes those sessions extend, sometimes they don't. Last night, time was running down and we got him for a couple minutes. And then all of a sudden they're like, we got to go. Not Greg Gard, but other people were like, we got to go. You guys need to leave. And Greg Gard, to his credit, was nice enough to follow us out into the hallway and answer every last question. I think that's important, that he handled a really tough loss and a tough situation with a tremendous amount of dignity. So that needs to be said up front. What he said was, I thought the money quote for me was, I asked him, because he had earlier mentioned how the NCAA tournament has got a beauty and an ugliness to it, meaning that, losses like last night happen, and they, it's a rough way to end a season. And I brought that back up later. I'm like, I agree, it's an ugliness to it, and yet it's the last thing people see. It's the last thing fans see. It's often, for some fans, how they judge a season. And he answered the question well. He's like, I know, I thought we were going to make it to the Final Four, and it sucks, and that's kind of how I led my column. It does, and it's really hard to, we can get into this, but it's really hard to define what a program is, what a team is, because you really got to look at the big picture, and yet this narrative in March isn't going away.
So just like the Packers, when they lose in the playoffs, they're all, from a fan perspective, they're all part of one continuous narrative, right? But the roster is fully turned over from, if you want to talk about a playoff loss 4 years ago, the NFC Championship game against Tom Brady and Tampa in Green Bay, or the NFC Championship, another loss. The roster is fully changed, turned over. But for a fan, all that emotional damage, it wires through. It keeps going. Yeah. This is different than the loss against James Madison. This is different than the loss last year against BYU. Now, you, I think, point out that the finishing shot in both the BYU loss last year by Tanjay and the finishing shot yesterday by Boyd are not good shots. You're in the same scenario, and you put the ball in the hand of your best player. But in theory, Tanjay's shot was not very good. And yesterday, Boyd's shot was in against three defenders. But I look back at it, Jimmy, and there wasn't any spacing either. Like, it wasn't as though he could have kicked out to Rhodey standing alone on the wing. I mean, there's a narrative that kind of runs through. The fan emotion is built over years, but every loss like this is its own individual deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I don't know. That was not a criticism of Greg Gard. I think you put the ball in your players' hands and let them do their thing. I think what we have to acknowledge is that BYU defended that play well last year, and High Point defended it well this year. And I think in both cases, neither one of those guys was going to give up the ball. I haven't really watched the Boyd play too much yet. I don't think there are many options, right? I don't think he passed up. So, he had gotten to the rim over and over and over. And I think that's the best play in that situation. And we focus on that possession a lot. But that possession will get a lot of attention because it's the last one and in some ways the most meaningful one. There were a lot of other ones. Like Nick Boyd at one point got a little too cute at the basket when he could have finished. John Blackwell missed at the rim.
Yeah.
The go-ahead basket for High Point, Andrew Rohde, I don't think did a great job of being the last man back. You just can't let a missed layup turn into a open layup on the other end. And that's something that doesn't happen for Wisconsin basketball. I can count the number of times on one hand that that's happened in 20 years. So, but it happened at a bad moment. And how do you explain it? I don't know. It's really hard to explain.
And Rohde is in the corner when that shot goes up, and then he peels back towards where he's going to get back and defend, but the ball came off the rim a little funny, and he takes a jab step to try and maybe go what's going to get a loose ball, and Chase Johnston then it leaks out and gets that. And by the way, just to bury the idea of that being a travel, it's not a travel. It doesn't get called ever. It's not going to ever get called as a travel. I don't even think by rule it's a travel.
Yeah, I didn't in real time, and I've seen it a couple times. I didn't think it was a travel. I mean, listen, if we're going to talk about traveling, Wisconsin fans need to acknowledge that Nick Boyd travels a lot and John Blackwell travels a lot. So if we're going to start calling traveling the way it used to be called, then I'm not sure that benefits Wisconsin all that much.
One of the interesting things you point out, and this is maybe the concept here is what matters. And I think it matters to the fans. You talked about the contract, the incentive-laden contract that Greg Gard and Chris McIntosh agreed to at the end of last year. I just want to point out one thing and then let you expound upon it. There was a $500,000 or $425,000 bonus if Wisconsin won the Big Ten regular season title. That's a 20-game measurement of what your program is. There's a $525,000 bonus if they win 2 games in the NCAA tournament and make the Sweet 16. Kind of gives you a sense of how the fandom in this country, not just here, views the NCAA tournament. A lot of people judge college basketball programs only on what happens after Selection Sunday, and that's even kind of written into the contract here for Gard.
Yeah, Mike, and when that contract came out in December or January, we'd known something was coming, and it finally got signed where they could release it to us. I don't think that part of it really struck me as being all that important. Like the thing that I thought was interesting about that contract is it is all incentive laden, right? I think what's happened here, and nobody said this publicly, but I think what's happened is coaches have been hired in the Big Ten, and Greg Gard has gone from one of the higher paid coaches to middle or below middle of the pack. And I think you could make the argument in his case that that's unfair based on how consistently top 3, top 4 they've been in the Big Ten, right? So that's kind of the background. But when that contract came out, I certainly knew the numbers, but didn't really think about it in those terms. It was more like this week, the last couple of weeks I've been thinking about it. And I'm like, because for as much as we hear from Greg Gard himself that this tournament's a crapshoot and it's matchup based and stuff like that, he did sign a contract that rewards him more for winning 2 games than if they were 19-1 in the Big Ten this year, right? And it is what it is. I don't, it's not a criticism, but it's a one measure. And really the whole premise of my column was, how do you define this season? It was a weird season. It was a fun season. The amount of growth they showed was tremendous. But, can you call this a great team? I don't think so. And my basis for that is not one of those incentive check marks was crossed off this year. It didn't happen. So this team was a really good team that fell short of greatness, in my opinion.
Jim, I talked about it earlier this week, and, on the media side, talk shows like to give grades. And I would have earlier this week, I gave the season a B+. Based on, top 5th finish in the Big Ten and the dramatic wins. And I pointed out the significant losses too, including Oregon and Indiana and some of the blowout losses that they suffered before the first of the year and so on and so forth. But I said it's a B+, but the tournament is always the final exam. And I initially said, even if they lose in the first round, I would give it a B-. I changed that and said, he's got to go from B+ to a C+. I think the emotion of yesterday makes you think, well, I think C is a generous, C+ is a generous deal. Final exams matter. Like if you go back to our college days, some classes, some professors would say it's 50% of your grade. I think from a fan base perspective in college basketball, fair or unfair, it's about 75% of the grade.
Yeah, as you talk, my first thought was that you're a way harsher grader than I am, and that's coming from someone who's kind of, I got so much criticism last night from people when I posted that column that I was too negative. I think I would still keep it on the B line somewhere, but I'll admit up front that I haven't really given it that much thought, and I certainly, your reasoning makes a lot of sense. The other thing to kind of keep in mind here when assigning grades is that it's almost like there's a curve that needs to be put in place, right? Because this is a different era, and Greg Gard had to reconstruct this roster in the offseason. So the fact that they were in position to get a number 5 seed and the fact that they were a top 5 team in an 18-team league is all something that I kind of consider. But yeah, it's such a tough way to end. And like we were talking, Michael McCleary, our beat writer, and I were talking, there's a world where they win that game and then play the game of their lives tomorrow against Arkansas.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about going straight to San Jose from here. And that would not have been a crazy idea. It seems like a crazy idea now because they lost, but this team was capable of making a run.
Yeah.
It didn't. And that's, unfortunately, it somehow has to get over the hump in March. And I don't have any answers for how. I don't. I wish I had a solution.
And they'll have a big task in front of them. You don't know what this roster looks like. I mean, right. Ilyasky is very good and young from an experience standpoint in the college game. He's not young in life, but, he's just a freshman. Austin Rapp's just a sophomore. John Blackwell's got another year. I don't know if he's NBA ready. I don't know what his plan is. I mean, obviously, Nick Boyd is gone. Rhodey is gone.
Winter's back, probably back.
Carrington is gone. But again, now we're talking about a sport in which we don't have transparency. I don't know what Wisconsin spent on their player roster. And I also don't know what their competition spends on their player roster, whether that's the team they beat in Champaign and again in Chicago, in Illinois. I don't know what they're spent on their roster because college basketball, college athletics doesn't tell you. We know it in the NFL. We know that it's a level playing field financially. In baseball, we know that it's unlevel, but we know the gap. In college, we know that it's not level, but we don't know the gap. Does Wisconsin do enough on the college basketball front financially for an NBA player to be on this roster? Because, I mean, that if you go back to back-to-back Final Fours, there were NBA players. Now, none of them were stars in the NBA, but there were NBA players on that roster. And right now, I don't know, maybe Nolan Winter because of measurables, maybe. But are they doing it financially? Is that a fair question to ask about what they do without fully knowing the answer?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair question. I listen, my limited knowledge of this, because there is no transparency, is again why I'm a little bit sympathetic to Greg Gard. And this was, I'll go back to a conversation he and I had 2-3 years ago, back when the Varsity Collective was kind of just getting its feet underneath it. A lot of the resources were being pushed towards football, and some of that makes sense. But Greg Gard was kind of out on an island and having to drum up support, financial and otherwise, on his own. It was very much a grassroots effort, and he found a loyal group of donors and keeps going back to those people. But he had to do a lot of that on his own with his staff. I shouldn't say it's a one-man operation. That staff has worked really hard to get Wisconsin in an NIL position that they could at least be competitive. Are they spending with Illinois? No. Indiana? No. Blue Bloods? No. But I think they've done enough where they could go to Nolan Winter and John Blackwell last year at this time and say, hey, we want you back. We've got what we think is a competitive offer, come back. They did. And they had enough money to go out and get a Nick Boyd, when North Carolina was in on him too. So yes, I think they have money. I don't know where it compares to others. And I would think the playbook would be very similar this year. You pay Winter, Blackwell, some of the other pieces to retain them, and you got to go out and get a guy. What that looks like, I don't know. nobody thought Nick Boyd would be this good. I thought he'd be a key piece, a very important piece at point guard. Didn't think he'd be this good. Certainly didn't think John Tonje would be this good 2 years ago. Didn't think AJ Storer would be that productive 3 years ago. So Greg Gard's got a history of going out and getting guys. I think if this team's going to be back in this position, let's talk about yesterday's position at 10:40 Pacific time, where they're a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to go out and get at least one more dude. And that's with the assumption that Winter and Blackwell come back. If one or two of those guys don't come back, then it's a complete roster overhaul, and you're talking about going deep into the free agent market, right?
Yeah. Let me finish with this, Jim, and I appreciate you spending time with us this morning. I spend a fair amount of time after a game like yesterday on Twitter fighting, which I think is a vocal minority crowd of the Fire Greg Gard crowd. I think they're very vocal, but I do think it's a small percentage. Yeah. One of the comps that I made is to Matt Painter, who in the first 11 years at Purdue missed the tournament, I believe 3 times. One of those, they were in the CBI, and they were a Sweet 16, I think, 3 times. Greg's been there twice, and they were early. But Painter, there was patience at Purdue. I don't know if patience in the fan base, but there was patience. And then I think some things changed, and he got some better players, some NBA caliber players. And now they did get beat in the first round a couple of years ago, but is that a fair comp to make? And how do you answer the Fire Gard crowd?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to engage anymore. Yeah. I really do. I mean, like I just don't. I don't have that belief that he should be fired. I think if we've learned anything from the football situation, it's that the grass isn't always greener, and it's. So I kind of use that, even though it's not it's not the same situation. I think it's similar enough. I think the good thing about Greg Gard is he's embraced change. He's may not like the way the transfer portal and NIL works, but he's attacked it and they've been creative. So I think they have the right guy in the job. Again, I don't know. I can't sit here and write 900 words on what they should do differently. I mean, the obvious one is they need to get a little bit better defensively. They've maybe have gone too far, and yet I understand why. Like, this roster had to be a team that scored 80 plus points. They had to shoot a lot of 3-pointers. Yeah. You would think it would help them attract better players. Like this high school class in Wisconsin, the juniors right now, there's a lot of guys that are on Wisconsin's radar. And I would think playing in this type of system would be attractive. So I can understand why there's been a complete change. On the flip side, I don't know that this team's going to make deep runs unless it gets a little bit better defensively. So you somehow have to find a balance on that. Going back to Painter, Mike, like I keep thinking that if this team can get a breakthrough, if they can get to the second weekend, if they can win a couple close games, then all the pressure's off and you can kind of just move forward. Yeah. I think there is a mental hurdle. I don't know how much time Greg Gard spends thinking about it. I don't know that he coaches any different in these games. I didn't see anything yesterday where I'm like, wow, he just froze. I didn't see that at all. But I do think there's pressure on his players. A guy like John Blackwell and Nolan Winter, who's been around and have seen this team fall short. I think there's pressure on them late in games. Certainly High Point was playing loose and free, right? There was no pressure on that team. So it's just it's a hurdle they have to get over. I don't know how, but I think once it happens, I think you could see a Matt Painter-like long that next tier. I could see Wisconsin being on that next tier consistently. Yeah.
Safe travels back. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to getting to do this again under better circumstances. But safe travels back, and appreciate you being on with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. All right, so we roll forward, and I do. Look, I got Vilker up there. I'm going to take him down real quick just so I can talk about my sponsors. A little teaser on Treadmill joining us here in a moment. Our sponsors, presented by Neuroscience Group and by M3 Insurance. With M3 Insurance, you get it all. Personal guidance you need to protect and grow your business, and a team that provides tailored insurance and risk management solutions and unparalleled service to your business. Don't settle for anything less from your insurance broker. Go to m3ins.com. That's M3 Insurance, m3ins.com. Presented by Neuroscience Group. From diagnosis to recovery, Neuroscience Group brings together neurology, neurosurgery, pain management, and therapy all under one roof. Advanced care close to home. neurosciencegroup.com, and brought to you in part by Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino. Bet above the rest. That casino, that sportsbook will be hopping all weekend long with the tournament. And brought to you by our friends at Habish and Rotier, personal injury attorneys who will take care of all of your needs. They are part of our show. We hope that they're part of your planning the next time you have that need. So here we go. Now I bring in Vilker to the program. Superfan Tuesday. Now, we haven't seen him in a while, but if he doesn't look familiar, that's Jeff Vilker, a guy I call Treadmill Boy. I'm I'll just for a moment here, I'm just going to give you the floor and see what your thoughts, what you have processed emotionally since yesterday. And while you do that, I'm going to have a sip of bourbon.
Pass the cup. The feedback I got from the first show with you from friends that I respect and family was that I'm not bringing enough Vilker to this show.
Okay.
So my first comment is going to check two boxes. I'm going to bring some more Vilker, and I'm hoping that this is the inaugural. This is the first official F-bomb dropped when I say this. I hate fucking losing.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Cheers.
It's particularly in a moment in time where we do have the right guy. And I am no apologist. I will be the first one as a big fan, and I think all fans reserve this right. Let's remember, these coaches at the D1 and professional level are making all the money to not only develop great young players and win, but to bring entertainment and glory to their fan bases. So when I feel as though the general public, the fans, see something going wrong, they can be as vocal as they want, as crazy as they want, because absent these big jobs, maybe they have a nice high school job that doesn't pay anything because they're a PE teacher on the side, right? So yeah. The ones that get that, the coaches that really understand that dynamic, Bill Belichick's of the world, not being those guys, like, fuck off, Bill, go coach high school football and see how that works out for you. The coaches that get that know how to take that heat. To the fire guard crowd out there. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. The media, and I love the media. That's why I'm on this. The media picks us 7th on the high end in an expanded conference, 12 to 16th on the low end. And all Greg and his predecessors do is shove it up their ass year in and year out in conference play. Yeah. Now, I want that run. I want that run.
We all do.
We all do. And I don't think he coached different, but he's figured out the portal. That is so hard. And I think we've spoken about this, Mike. Not the last guy that I would have guessed to have figured out the portal, but bottom third for sure. Not because he's not brilliant, but because, just like you discussed moments ago, there's no way that guy loves the situation he finds himself in with this free agency year over year, picking up a new guy. So he's got that figured out. He clearly knows how to develop players. Just look at the first 12, 14 games versus the last 20.
Yeah.
It wasn't, for those that don't follow basketball, Wisconsin basketball in particular, people saw that as a 10.5-point game. I get it. It looked like a 10.5-point game for a good portion of the first half. But we knew that team was motivated. Their fans were motivated. They had forgotten how to lose. Courtney made a good point about that on Tuesday. By the way, side note.
Yeah, excited.
CC, as
Courtney Corning, Superfan Tuesday, the last 2 Tuesdays.
Yeah, CC. If I'm JV, he's CC, and look up famous people named CC. None of them look like CC, right? None of them look like our Courtney. Half of his content is talking shit about me.
Yeah.
And the other half of his content is like name dropping. It's just, or game dropping, all the games that he's been to and the famous people that he's met and the signed freaking hockey sticks that that guy, Cece, here's a message for you. And then I'm going to move on because I don't need to fill my very, very treasured time.
Yeah, precious time. You got less than 10 minutes.
I don't need to fill it with you. But note to self, kid, easy. Stick to that big sports brain of yours and leave me out of the conversation.
So yesterday, when all this was said and done, I went back and forth with a number of Gard haters who come out. I mean, when they lose a significant game, they're all there waiting. They didn't say anything when they beat Illinois in the Big Ten tournament. They didn't say anything when they beat Michigan, at Illinois, at Purdue, home against Michigan State. They don't say anything when they play Michigan to the wire in the semifinal of the Big Ten tournament, but they do come out as soon as they lose. So I said on Twitter after the game, all of the Gard haters will have the floor for a while. I'll engage with some and ignore others. Can't fight them all. And the judgment after Selection Sunday is real. It's their best evidence. I believe Greg Gard is a very good coach. The tournament results have not been good enough. That's the end of my post. Roy then says, how many times does he have to fail before you finally stop blindly defending him? Start holding him accountable. So then I get another one. This one from Part of the Problem. Mike has to stay in the coach's good graces so he will defend Gard. I'm not defending anything. I'm attacking the attackers. All right. So all that bullshit that's out there about those of you going to get this head coach, because obviously he's the problem. I'm not defending Gard. I'm attacking your ass. Yeah. You got nothing to go on. If that is your only argument, what happens after Selection Sunday? Tell me yesterday how they looked poorly prepared. Now, is this team good enough defensively? No. They were built this year to outscore you. Yesterday's the first game that they scored more than 78 points that they lost. They scored 82 and lost because they didn't make any shots down the stretch. And some damn sharpshooter named Chase Johnston, who's 26 years old, in his 6th program, hit every fucking thing he looked at, including a 33-footer that nobody in their right mind shoots. Nobody. No, it's a Caitlin Clark special. There are moments. Yeah, no kidding. Caitlin Clark is the best example. There are moments, and yesterday was one of them, where if you were neutral, you'd look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe High Point hit every damn shot they looked at down the stretch. Yep. And Wisconsin did all the things that they normally do. Get to the rim, crash the rim, and none of it worked. And I am not putting that on you got to fire the coach. And I made a Matt Painter comp. Just look at it. Look at the first 11 years for Painter at Purdue and tell me that there is not a parallel. He's a really good coach. I'm talking about Matt Painter, but a lot of Purdue fans wanted him fired. Greg Gard is a really good coach. And I wouldn't say a lot, but a vocal minority wants him gone. Vilker, like I had to fight through my emotions. We had an event last night at Red and White that I had to turn this off and turn that on. And that was hard. I mean, not about me, but that in that moment, that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've said this so many times through the years. I wish I did not care so much sometimes. Now it takes me about 30 seconds to flush that feeling and know that all the joy that we get from being, not only from watching the wins, but just for having that family that we're all part of and going all in and full send. But games like that, and it also illustrates just how hard it is to win this whole damn thing, because there's a bunch of High Point performances out there, right, from across the field, the expanded field, where I mean, North Carolina met that, towards the end of their game. I don't know how Duke felt last night. I'm thinking they probably all ran off to church and thanked whoever they needed to thank, because that easily could have gone the other way. It's hard. And go back to the game a little bit. I mean, it wasn't just the catch and shoot out of Johnston, which the ball was out of his hands, headed toward the rim before it even got into his hands.
All three of them late, right? The ridiculous shot in transition where he's the trailer and shoots from the middle of the logo, but then both in front of the bench and on the near sideline. Both are not poorly defended. They are catch and shoot, immediate, super quick release. And all three of them were like true. Like, he didn't get a bounce. Like, they are money. And it's like, shit. Every time when he made every one of those, Kari can't even watch anymore. And then I'm yelling shit when he makes them and going a little crazy internally. All right, let me do this, because we got about 5 minutes before I start talking about bourbon with Joe Henry Jr. from J. Henry and Sons. I have it's not a solution, but it is identifying a problem and what it is that Wisconsin needs to do in order to get by this moment. Jeff, when they went to back-to-back Final Fours, you had Decker, who was an NBA guy. You had Kaminsky, who was an NBA guy. You had Nigel, who is back and forth NBA, but he's right NBA adjacent. And then you had Duye Dukin, who people don't recognize, was an NBA guy. Bronson Koenig, who, if he didn't have some other issues that he was dealing with, was also borderline NBA guy. This team, I don't know who the NBA guy is. I don't think Blackwell's an NBA guy, but what do I know? I don't think that Nick Boyd can be an NBA guy, but it's going to have to be the right circumstance. Nolan Winter has the measurables. My point is this. They have to get one of these guys that says no. They have to get, the Knippel family to stop the Duke, right? They got to get, there's 11 of those kids. I don't think there are. I think there's 5. But they got to get one of the Knippels. They had to get, who's my dude that went to Kentucky and lights it up now for Miami? Why am I losing his name in the NBA?
It came out of
Milwaukee dude, who was committed to Wisconsin and then didn't come here because Kentucky offered late, and he took the money and the offer at Kentucky. And by the way, when they did that, they missed out on Tyrese Halliburton, who at Oshkosh was going to Iowa State, but they didn't have a scholarship for him because they were holding it for his ass to come to Madison. It didn't happen. That guy's got to come.
Yeah.
And that guy comes when somebody pays the money to get that guy, like Knippel, who took $1 million to go, $1 million plus to go to Duke for 1 year. One of those guys has to come here, and somebody's going to have to pay him, because this team, this program needs a real 2 or 3 NBA guy in order to be that team that Bo had in 14 and 15 that went to back-to-back Final Fours, because there were NBA guys on that court, and today there aren't, and they've got to take that step. No?
Yeah, I don't know that 14-15 team, when they entered as freshmen, you would have said there were 3.5, we'll call it, NBA guys at that time.
Decker and Koenig were high-level recruits, but Kaminsky was a project, and Nigel Hayes wasn't wanted by Ohio State and others.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't transfer because it wasn't allowed.
Yeah, so you're clearly right. The teams that are built to play in the last couple games of the season obviously have that level of talent. I'd say 2 things. One, the portal can help cure a little bit of that. And you've seen that with guys like Tanjay and Boyd the last couple of years. So maybe one of those NBA guys, maybe 2, probably not, but maybe one of them is that portal transfer guy. That's the way it's been going. But if you want to talk about getting those one and dones or incoming freshmen that you can develop for a couple of years that are going to turn in, that look like stars right when they hit campus and leave campus being a known NBA player, yeah, you're going to have to pay up for sure. What I like, Mike, I think the dynamic that has changed through the years, and it's talked about ad nauseum, especially this year with a team that averaged over 80. I think we're more attractive to those types of players with the offense that Greg is allowing them to run today. And I would argue that team you just referenced, that back-to-back Final Four team, people forget how much that team ran versus prior Bo teams. That metamorphosis, that evolution of offense hasn't come about in just the last couple years. I think Bo showed Greg that he'd be willing, and Greg's taken it to the next level.
Yeah.
To let his teams run and let their athleticism rule a little bit. So a couple things. One, I think the portal can continue to help. And two, I think a much more attractive, fun, for lack of a better term, dynamic offense can also help get those freshmen in.
Do you have a parting thought before I talk bourbon and drink more heavily?
Yeah, I do have a parting thought. Why the hell am I not in studio drinking bourbon right now? I mean, I'm
good question.
This is ridiculous. I mean, and I will never miss another Tuesday again, because the fuck if I'm going to cede this chair to Cece. That's never going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's good to have you back, and we'll do this on Tuesday.
Great.
You gonna be all right? You all good?
Yeah, I'm good. Can't wait for the weekend, brother.
All right. Get out of here. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate you. That's Treadmill, and we bring him in as a super fan on Tuesdays, but he kind of requested a spot in here. Let me do this as we go to a sponsor page, and I also reach back behind me to grab a prop that is going to be a usable prop in our final segment. A big thank you to the Neuroscience Group and to M3 Insurance, presenting sponsors on I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Also, our partner sponsors with Potawatomi Sportsbook and Habish and Rotier. By the way, we're in on another presenting sponsor, which I will bring to your attention within the next 2 weeks. Super excited about that. Also, super excited as we roll back into bringing in another guest. His name is Joe Henry Jr. All right. He is he's my guy from J. Henry and Sons. And Joe, I see you. That's a lovely beard, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm growing it out. I think it's going on like 2 years now.
Okay, so my featured product today is your 2021 anniversary blend, limited edition. Okay, so this is, what do we have here? This would be like about what is this ABV? What is this proofed up at? I've got it. It's 122, I think. Would that seem about right?
Yeah, 61% alcohol.
Yeah, so 122 proof. And I've got it in here. And listen, you and I talked yesterday. We talked about talking about this, and I said I would be after it. And you said you've already been you've been tasting this morning, right? It's part of the job. It's what you do.
Best time to taste is first thing in the morning, Mike. It's actually kind of, so I'm our master blender here at J. Henry and Sons. We're located just north of Madison, and we raise all of our own heirloom red corn, wheat, and rye used to produce some of the highest quality bourbons in the world.
Yeah.
Right here in Madison. So it's super exciting. What we usually do is try and start tasting when we're doing quality control stuff, like as early as 7 or 8 a.m. Because when you think about that kind of scientifically, as you kind of wake up and go through your day, maybe you have breakfast, then you get in your car and you drive to work. Then you are dealing with like your coworker next to you with a really aggressive cologne. And then you go and have lunch. And then, your senses are just kind of attacked by all these things throughout the day. And so when you start your day right away in the morning, that's kind of like the freshest your palate, your sense of smell and taste is going to be throughout the day. So it's honestly the most sensitive that you are and the best time to take whiskey. And you can quote me on that as a professional.
Well, we have. Now we've got the receipts. You just said it right here.
Yeah, so it's recorded, right? Yeah.
So I broke the seal on this morning. It's just been sitting on our back shelf here.
Nice.
So for those people who are unfamiliar, if you're a bourbon person, you're certainly familiar. But if you're not a bourbon person, you wouldn't necessarily know what J. Henry and Sons is. But you guys are relatively new to the whiskey bourbon industry. You took your heirloom corn and Joe Sr., your pops, and he and Liz went down on a bourbon trail trip. And I think that Joe, your dad, had the brainchild and had to sell Liz on it to say, we need to do what they're doing because they're bringing all this corn in. We've got some of the best corn on the planet that it's ours, and we're farming it, and let's do this. And the whole concept of that, all bourbon ages 4 years. So the whole concept of trying to do that from scratch is going to be a process. You guys are relatively new in it, and it's fantastic. And I don't think you thought when you graduated Wanakee High School in 2011, 2010?
Yeah, 2010. Jeez.
2010. I don't think you thought you'd be doing this and being a
definitely.
And Nancy Fraley is kind of your, certainly it's mom and dad and it's the family, right? And I love both your mom and dad, Joe Sr. and Liz. They're two of my favorites. But Nancy Fraley is really kind of your gateway into being who you are and how you're going to manage this business rolling forward.
Yeah, definitely. So like our family's been growing seed corn since 1946. So we have a lot of historical background raising, like you said, some of the highest quality grains in the entire world. We're what's called a contract grower. So we customize different varietals of corn for specific farmers all throughout the Midwest. So we took that institutional knowledge as a family business and applied that to using grains that we've grown that are actually coming from the UW-Madison heirloom grain program in the ag department. We actually raise those right on our farm to produce these spirits. And that's the business model that my mom and dad came up with was we have some of the highest quality grains here in the Midwest. Let's make some of the highest quality spirits using those as inputs. And then Nancy Fraley is a very interesting character in my life. She's been my mentor, one of my best friends for about 13, now going on 14 years now, is how long we've been working with her as a family and how long she's been mentoring me in kind of what I specialize in as our master blender. And this is kind of an interesting distinction for a lot of people, because if you go down to Kentucky and you go on the bourbon trail and you do a tour, they're always talking about who the master distiller is. And really what their major role is to look at the grains coming in, run a fermentation process, run a still, create white dog, and put it in a barrel and kind of forget about it. For 4+ years. So that is like, I say this because a master blender has to work in tandem with a master distiller to create a final product. But for us as a family business, we really didn't want to invest into building, $1 million still. We already have the investment in the corn, which is arguably, the mash bill, probably 20%, if not more, of your final flavor comes from the grains that you use. 10% is going to come from fermentation, 10% from distillation. 60+% is going to come from the interaction of the spirit and the oak barrel as it's aging. And so that's really where Nancy Fraley comes in, who is a master blender by trade for over 40 years now. She's actually been trained, and this is kind of where a little bit of this legacy and pedigree kind of comes into play. Because you can go to school to become a master distiller. Like there's programs, there's universities, there's a curriculum there. To become a master blender is a little bit more like learning a musical instrument or becoming a black belt in a martial art. It's a lot more artistically driven, and there's not like a defined path. Like if you take these courses and you get all A's, you're going to become a master blender. It doesn't really work like that. a lot of this knowledge is passed down. And Nancy and me are very fortunate to learn from a guy who's named Hubert Germain Robin. And he owned, his family owned an 11th generation cognac distillery out in Western France.
Okay. That's where Bellefontaine comes from?
Yeah, pretty much. Similar region where one of our products comes from.
Right. Yeah.
So he has a lot of this institutional knowledge that has been passed down from his few previous generations because they've been making cognac in very traditional ways there for close to 1,000 years. Like I just went, one of the oldest cognac houses I went to has had a family member working in production since like the 1100s.
That's crazy.
So we talk about like Kentucky bourbon being, 200 years old now. They've got products there that are older than our distilleries. And so
Well, I mean, there are so many layers to that, and
we're going to have a lot of talk about on this podcast. So whenever you can squeeze me in, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to squeeze Joe in as often as we can to talk bourbon because it's going to be a passion of mine. I don't have a very deep knowledge base. I know what I like, and my go-to with you is the Bellefontaine or the Armagnac finish.
Yep. Those are both really good.
So I like both of those. But so then again, let me go to this. So this is an anniversary blend. So this is something that you are really part and parcel to. When you talk about being a master blender, this is taking your different bourbons and barrels from your brand new, beautiful rick house and deciding which ones you want to blend together. And that's what you do on the blend. But I also want to, in our limited time together today, remind people, and Craig, my buddy Craig, just sent this in to the show. He said, bourbon and lobster rolls at J. Henry tomorrow, Saturday, 11 to 5, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You got that going on.
Yeah, so we, I think we can talk about the anniversary blend at another time, maybe closer to the fall when we release that.
As long as you don't mind me just drinking it while you talk.
Well, I got a bottle here that I'm going to open and get you one of these pretty soon here, Mike. So let me just pop this puppy open so I can join you real quick. But thanks, Craig, for the shout out. We are having our 4th annual product release of our J. Henry Maple Reserve.
Oh, there you go.
So this is a really, and that's coming out tomorrow out on the farm. So this is a product that was kind of a really fun project that Nancy and I started working on because I just had some ideas. We started talking to a maple syrup producer up in northern Wisconsin, and he wanted to barrel age maple syrup in our used bourbon casks.
Yeah.
And then sell kind of like bourbon barrel aged maple syrup to put on pancakes and stuff.
Oh, baby.
It's great. We sell it at the tasting room. You can come try it today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But then I got the idea to start putting whiskey back into those used maple syrup casks.
No kidding.
Yeah. And this is something that not a lot of people do. When you look at like a maple or a honey whiskey, a lot of that stuff is fake. They add artificial colors, flavoring, syrups. Mm-hmm. So this is a really authentic, all-natural product. It's a used J. Henry bourbon barrel filled with maple syrup. Maple syrup gets dumped out after about a year. We put whiskey back in it for another year. And this is the final product, and we're releasing our 4th iteration tomorrow out on the farm. This is a distillery farm-only release. And we're also having a Cousin's Lobster truck come out there. So
fantastic.
Great company there. And we're super excited to drink some whiskey and have some lobster rolls tomorrow.
How good is that? My goodness. Let me finish on 2 quick notes. One, I opened by talking about that beard. Now, I love that beard. That is one hell of a beard.
I started in corporate America and they never really wanted me to look like this. And now,
Is it here to
running a whiskey
stay?
company? Nobody really can tell me what to do with my hair anymore.
Is it here to stay? Does Liz like it? Yeah, that's your mom. Is it here to stay? And does your mom like it?
Liz hates it. My dad doesn't understand why I don't want to shave. I think now that the weather's getting a little warmer, it's getting to the point where if I have to spend any amount of time in a cornfield in July or August, it's probably not going to play very well.
Yeah. Okay. And then one of my favorite lines from your mom, and you and I have we have drank bourbon together on the golf course, and I won't say how.
Yeah.
Because that would be offensive to mom, right? Liz wouldn't love how we drank some of that bourbon on the golf course, so I'll leave that alone.
It's fine as long as you're drinking J. Henry. We don't care what
it was your product. It was J. Henry. We were drinking it at Lac La Belle.
Lac La Belle, yeah,
and we didn't have cups, so
straight from the bottle, Liz.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines from her, because my wife, Kari, we've been to J. Henry's many, many, many times on tastings, and Liz and Joe, we've had events at our bar, Red and White Wine Bar in Wanakee.
Yeah.
And that your mom and dad have been to many times. And Kari will say, I'm just not a bourbon drinker. And before she finishes her sentence, Liz will interrupt. Yet, Kari, we're not a bourbon
find
drinker
one that
yet.
you want.
Right? So like she's gonna get there.
It's all about finding the right vehicle. Like I said,
yeah.
We've got a lot. This maple one is very approachable.
Good.
We have a honey finish that comes out in July. That's also extremely approachable. And then we've got a lot of very creative, fun cocktails to show people. Like, maybe you don't like it yet. I think it's probably just because you haven't tried the right one or the right application.
Old fashions when we come out and do a tasting, whether that's smoked or any of your old fashions, whatever it is, she loves that part of it. I'm looking forward to continuing to visit with you as we go down the road here on I Love Mondays. Joe, I appreciate you carving out some time for us today. All the best tomorrow. And for those who are looking for something to do on a beautiful Saturday, going to be about 70 degrees tomorrow. If you want to go out to J. Henry and Sons, which is listed as Dane, but it's just off the interstate, off of Highway V, and then north on Patton Road, right? Is that?
Yeah, you got it. Kind of just a few minutes north of Wanakee, a few minutes west of DeForest.
Yeah.
Really,
what are your hours tomorrow? What are your hours on the maple release and the lobster as well?
I think the lobster truck is going to get here a little early, maybe 11:30. Okay. They should be set up. We'll probably start bottle sales right at noon.
Okay.
As is tradition with us, and then we're open until 7. So
and prepare for some lines, especially as the weather is good, for people to show up. I know when you do your releases with the La Flamme and Bellefontaine, many times that and the anniversary blend, cars are parked out to the road. So prepare for a little bit of that. Is that fair?
Prepare for a little bit of a line. We've got a good system now, so that if you want to come in, have a cocktail, hang out, there'll be a separate line for you to go park your car and get a lobster roll. Otherwise, we'll probably be doing a drive-through line as well, where the people that have other things that they got to do on a Saturday, we'll try and get you in and out as quickly as possible. But do please be patient, because this is an extremely popular product, and we really appreciate and thank everybody that's showing up for the support.
This is so good. I look forward to our next conversation. I love your products. I love your bourbon. I'm a big fan of the family. So, Joe Jr., thanks for spending time with us, and I'll look forward to the next one.
Love you, man. Thanks, Mike. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Joe. That's Joe Henry Jr. from J. Henry and Sons Bourbon Whiskey, just north of Madison, Wanakee, and this cask strength, 122 proof, 2021 is what I've been drinking today. You'll find it where you find your bourbons. You'll also find it at Red and White Wine and Bourbon Bar. We've got about 45 bourbons, that you can choose from. We pour them neat or on a rock. So I'm drinking mine neat. Neat means no ice, no water, just neat. I don't shoot it. Billy Schmidt, who I work with, I had to walk him through the idea of taking whiskey and tasting it. He goes, "What do you mean tasting it? Give me a shot glass." And I said, "No, Billy, I got it. You got to come on now. Let's go with this. Taste it, sip it, drink it." And we do that at Red and White. So stop by and see us anytime. And we've got a great bourbon collection. We have all the J. Henry products, from their small batch to their rye to the Bellefontaine to the Laflamme. It's a great selection. We have a lot of great selection of bourbon. So come by and see us on that. All right, let me finish here. Gosh. All right, a couple of questions in on our YouTube feed. One question, Mike: why did UW have Rapp guarding their quick point guard? High pick and rolls are going to get switches, and they didn't design Rapp to guard their quick point. But all offenses, and watching in the NBA, it happens all the time, and in college basketball, it happens all the time. The guard is going to work on switches on the top, on screens, until he gets the matchup that they want. So some of that is that, and some of that is, just that's it's good offense. Alex says, "When's the best chance to stop by Red and White and see you, and then to share a pour with you, Mike?" I don't think I'm going to be there tonight. We were there last night. Listen, I'm there a lot on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Some Fridays and Saturdays. We open daily at 4:00. Text or send it into the show. Ask me if I'm going to be there tonight. I'm not going to be there tonight, but I'd love to share a bourbon with you. Let me finish on this, and we're a little long today. Let me finish on this. Terribly disappointed, heartbroken with Wisconsin's loss in the NCAA tournament in the opening round at High Point. I have been terribly heartbroken and disappointed with the Packers in the playoffs, in a loss this year against the Bears, but go run down last year against Philadelphia, the year before after beating Dallas and losing in San Francisco. I think that was the year before. I'm terribly disappointed in those when those things happen. Hellerpods sends a note into the show. Red and White is open at 4 Mondays through Thursdays, 3 p.m. on Fridays, and 1 p.m. on Saturdays. We're closed on Sunday, other than for special events. That was sent in, I'm sure. Kari sends this in because it's not coming from me, because I'm working right now. Kari says, "Mike will be at Red and White almost every night next week." Okay, I didn't know that. But I guess if that's what the boss says, my captain. By the way, her Sip and Spill podcast is now out with Annie Thomas. Annie Thomas is the former Annie Nelson. Annie Thomas is married to Joe Thomas. Kari did a fantastic Sip and Spill. Look it up on your podcast. Download it on your podcast. Kari did a fantastic interview with Annie Thomas, who I think is fantastic. I love who she is and what she's about, because I love Joe too. Their family and what they do is so cool. And that interview that Kari did with Annie on Sip and Spill, which just dropped yesterday, is well worth your time and fantastic. And if I'm going to cross promote, let me do one more. I cross promoted Red and White, the Sip and Spill, and the Badger Connect podcast. I had one that dropped yesterday with Kelly and Kathy Sheffield. That is, I channeled my inner Kari on that interview with the two of them, because the Badger Connect podcast that I do that drops every Thursday at badgerconnect.com is about that stuff. It is about the backstory, the human emotion, the family, win or lose, and how they go through it. And Kari's busy now on the messages. Come in and enjoy a sip with Mike and get details about our upcoming Bourbon Trail trip. Yeah, we're doing a bourbon trail July 8th through the 12th. And we've got about 8 spots left. It's a bus trip from Madison to Louisville. And then we'll go to Frankfurt and to Bardstown and stay in Louisville for one of the days. We've got 7 bourbon stops on that trip. It'll be awesome. So come in and ask me about that at Red and White. Let's wrap it up. Very sad about Wisconsin's loss in the NCAA tournament. It steals the tournament from you on the opening day. It's why I said earlier this week, I love it when my team plays on Friday, especially like Friday night, because I get to enjoy all of Thursday and most of Friday before your team plays, and then you're fully emotionally invested. The tournament got stolen from us in the first round of games on Thursday. Like for me, the tournament kind of died yesterday at just before 3:00. And I'm very sad about that. But I don't need my pound of flesh because of it. And a lot of fans, not a lot, a vocal minority of the group of fans want their pound of flesh. They want somebody's head. I don't. I think Greg Gard is a very good coach. I think the program is in a very good spot. They got to find a way to win after Selection Sunday. They're going to find it. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Let's go. We'll talk to you Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Have a great, really good weather weekend, at least the front half. Have a great Friday and Saturday. Weather not as good on Sunday. We'll talk to you Monday. It's been a great week. Thanks for your support of this program and what we do on I Love Mondays. And I do this and say thank you. And we'll talk to you Monday. I Love Mondays, the Mike Heller thing on a podcast. I've had bourbon.
I love Mondays with Mike Heller.